Hey, this is Doc Yates. I'm a naturopathic doctor, registered acupuncturist, and a kinesiologist, owner of the Yates Naturopathic Clinic, and the founder of the interactive health website, Able Health. And this is the Simply Health Podcast, a show for females where I work to simplify and demystify the secrets of achieving optimal health naturally, based on my own experience in working with thousands of female patients over the past 15 years of my clinical practice. Welcome to Simply Health. Hey, this is Doc Yates, and welcome to the Simply Health Podcast, brought to you by Able Health. And today we are going to talk about some very important tips to stop peeing your pants. Urinary incontinence. And this can happen for many different reasons through many different stages of life. And again, we're going to get to the perimenopause and menopause aspects of those stages as we get through the podcast and details today. But I didn't want to leave it at just that, though I realize that most of my audience is perimenopausal and menopausal. Chances are you also have kids, maybe even grandkids that are suffering or dealing with these things. So we're going to give a little bit of answers and ideas for all of the categories. Because from a medical standpoint, often what they do, instead of addressing the root cause of it, is there's medications they can use to help you not go to the bathroom, and they're called anticholinergics. But these anticholinergics have been shown that there's links with dementia. And if we can treat something without causing a side effect, that's the way to do it. And that's what we want to dive into today. So we'll go through the different stages and then the treatment suggestions and concepts for each stage. So this should be a very quick podcast for today, but give you a little taste of how this can work. So we'll start with kids. When you're treating urinary incontinence with kids, obviously there's a part of it, like when they're really little, it's just time, just waiting for them to get a little bit older. But once they're at the stage when you know that, their peers are not having this issue, but yet they're not, having bedwetting or accidents at school on a regular basis, that's when you know there's something that we need to address. And what I have found in practice is that there's three main things for kids that make a big difference in helping and treat this. One of them is diet. I have found, and this is not like a life sentence of a diet, but I have found for kids, by pulling out things like sugar and a lot of, if they're eating a lot of sugar, preservatives, like junk food, cutting that out. Gluten, unfortunately, is another one that I've seen for a lot of kids that's been an issue. And then usually we can pull that out, correct a few other things, and then we can try adding them back in. So again, it's not a life sentence, but it is something I would suggest pulling those things out initially. So if I was to list off the main foods to keep it very clear, I would be pulling out all of the above for a short period of time, which would include sugar, preservatives, gluten. Those would be the main ones right there. The next thing is stress. And sometimes it's better to ask for another person's opinion on this, because it's hard for you to gauge the stress of the child in the house. Sometimes it's good to also have like a third opinion for someone who doesn't even live with you, like a grandparent as well, to see if they are perceiving anything like that. But stress can play a big role. I definitely remember there's certain kids that would say only have accidents if their parents were separated. Sometimes imagine they didn't have any issues at all, their parents got separated, all of a sudden they started having issues with incontinence. Or sometimes they would have issues with incontinence only when staying at one of the parents' house and not the other. And at that point, you got to figure out, is there some sort of stress or relationship strain that's causing these issues? Acupuncture works amazing for this, and the nice thing is that you don't need to use full-size real acupuncture needles to address this. So you can use just the little acupuncture stickers, and I've seen great results with that for the stress aspect and for the bladder aspect. Acupuncture works really, really well for bladder issues. So never forget to rule that out, no matter which category we're working with. And the third thing that I've seen for kids is tailbone issues. It's very common if they've had let's say they had a bad fall or landed on their butt. Now this is something where a practitioner you'd need to, probably the best choice for a practitioner like this would be an osteopath. But I have found when you'll find sensitive tailbones and it'll be more sensitive on one side or the other, there's some adjustments you can do, and that alone has made some big differences with incontinence for kids. So Just to review for kids, you've got the diet, the stress, and tailbone issues. Okay, moving on. Okay, sorry, a quick break there, and now I'm back. The next thing that you'll see for incontinence issues is often related with UTIs. So I'm thinking more of like the honeymoon cystitis stage. So this is something you'll see commonly, and it's not necessarily incontinence as it is chronic bladder issues, but that often can lead to incontinence. So honeymoon cystitis is you have a new partner, and then pretty much any time after intercourse you're getting bladder infections, irritations, and leading to dribbling or incontinence. Medically, they often just give you antibiotics, and they have you take them prophylactically, which means like basically any time before intercourse they'd have you take that. That's a lot of antibiotics to take. At the same time, chronic bladder infections is also a huge pain. Neither of them is good for you from a health standpoint. My suggestion would be use more natural antimicrobials that don't have an effect to wipe out your entire flora. And then the other thing I found with that, so use the natural antimicrobials, and you can take them preventively and kind of more as needed for treatment as well. And then acupuncture fits great for that. I've had quite a few clients where just those two things made a big, big difference for them. So for number 2, UTIs related to honeymoon cystitis is what they used to call it. That's the best concept for that. The next problem for bladder issues is after having kids. When you have bladder issues after having kids, typically that's related, especially if it was like a vaginal birth, it's all about the pelvic floor. And the best thing for that's not really something you can deal with always on your own. I know you go online and there's the Kegel exercises and all those things, but if you're doing those improperly, you can often make it worse. So just a visit or two with a pelvic floor physiotherapist, and it's becoming so popular now that probably every physiotherapy center, if they don't have one, they know of someone who does it. You're looking for a pelvic floor physiotherapist, and a good one beyond some like of the actual hands-on treatment. They're going to teach you how to properly do the exercises, and when you know how to properly do them on your own, then you can start getting the benefits from that. And once again, acupuncture plays a huge role in this case too. There are acupuncture points in the pelvic floor, though I can imagine how that would seem very intimidating to a lot of people. They do help a lot. And then there's other points in the abdomen and other bladder related points. So for point number 3, if you're getting all the bladder issues and they're all after having kids, then you really will need to focus on the pelvic floor and treatments related to that. Number 4, perimenopausal and menopausal related bladder issues. So this is where, again, it's all of a sudden, it's well post having kids. It's not like there's a new relationship, and all of a sudden now you're getting more leakage or more chronic bladder infections coming up again. Now we're back to the hormone aspect of things, because the effect of estrogen on the urethra, on the bladder, and on the vaginal wall, and where everything opens, where the urethra comes in, estrogen plays a big role with this. So this is where you want to get your hormones checked, your progesterone and your estrogen balanced. Very commonly in these situations, you're not just taking estrogen like topically on your forearm. You're probably using like a very low dose E3 or estriol. This is a type of estrogen cream, and you're using that vaginally as well. And finally, it can be a combination, and it very commonly is. It's sometimes they had issues since having kids and never had it dealt with. It kind of maybe got a little better on its own, but then it started getting a lot worse, like with perimenopause. Then you're working with a combination where you're treating the pelvic floor and you're treating hormones. Or say someone had a new relationship later in life while going through menopause, then you might be treating antimicrobials and hormone balance. So it could be a combination of any of these particular effects. So it's good that you know all the different stages and the different treatment strategies for those. So I hope this was helpful. This is Doc Yates, and I am signing off. Thanks for tuning in to Simply Health. If you want to learn more about health, check out Able Health.
If you want to see some of the other projects that I've been working on in health, business, music, and life, please check out the links below.